Chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. Edward Bear, known to his friends as Winnie-the-Pooh, or Pooh for short, was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his stoutness exercises in front of the glass. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, tra-la-la. He stretched up as high as he could go, and then tra-la-la, oh, help! As he tried to reach his toes. After breakfast, he had said it over and over to himself until he had learned it off by heart, and now he was humming it right through proudly, like this. Tra-la-la, 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 rum-tum, tiddle-um-tum. Tiddle-iddle, 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 rum-tum, tiddle-um-tum. While he was humming to himself, walking along gladly, wondering what everybody else was doing, and what it felt like being somebody else, suddenly he came to a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. "Ah," said Pooh, "rum-tum-tiddle-um-tum. If I know anything about anything, that hole means rabbit," he said, "and rabbit means company," he said, "and company means food, and listening to me humming, such like rum-tum-tiddle-um." So he went down, put his head into the hole, and called out, "Is anybody home?" There was a sudden scuffling noise inside the hole, and then silence. "What I said is anybody home?" called out Pooh very loudly. "No," said a voice, then added, "You needn't shout so loud. I heard you quite well the first time." "Bother," said Pooh. "Isn't there anybody here at all?" "Nobody." Winnie-the-Pooh took his head out of the hole and thought for a little. He thought to himself, there must be somebody there because somebody must have said nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, "Hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you?" "No," said Rabbit in a different sort of voice this time. "But isn't that Rabbit's voice?" "I don't think so," said Rabbit. "It isn't meant to be." "Oh," said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think. And then he put it back and said, "Well, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is?" "He's gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a very great friend of his." "But this is me," said Bear, very much surprised. "What sort of me?" "Pooh Bear." "Are you quite sure?" said Rabbit, still more surprised. "Quite sure," said Pooh. "Oh, well, then come in." So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole. Last he got in. "You were quite right," said Rabbit, looking him all over. "It is you. Glad to see you. Who did you think I was?" "Well, I wasn't sure. You know how it is in the forest. One can't have anybody coming into one's house. One has to be careful. What about a mouthful of something?" Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning. He was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. When Rabbit said, "Honey or condensed milk with your bread?" he was so excited that he said, "Both." And then, so as not to seem greedy, he added, "But don't bother with the bread, please." And for a long time after that, he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself, rather sticky voice, he got up, shook lovingly by the paw, and said he must be going on. "Must you?" said Rabbit politely. "Well," said Pooh, "I could stay a little longer if you—" And he tried very hard not to look in the direction of the ladder. As a matter of fact, Rabbit, I was going out myself directly. Oh, well then, I'll be going on. Goodbye. Well, goodbye. If you're sure you won't have any more. Is there any more? Asked Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off of the dishes and said, No, there wasn't. I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye. I must be going on. So he started to climb out of the hole. He pulled with his front paws and pushed with his back paws, and a little while his nose was out in the open, and his ears and his front paws, then his shoulders, and then, oh, help, said Pooh. I'd better go back. Oh, bother, said Pooh. I shall have to go on. I can't do either, said Pooh. Oh, help and bother. Now, by the time Rabbit wanted to go for a walk, and finding the front door full, he went by the back door and came round to Pooh and looked at him. Hello, are you stuck? He asked. No, said Pooh carelessly. I'm just resting and thinking and humming to myself. Here, give us a paw. Pooh Bear stretched out a paw, pulled and pulled and pulled. Ow! Cried Pooh. You're hurting. The fact is, said Rabbit, you're stuck. It all comes, said Pooh crossly, of not having front doors big enough. It all comes, said Rabbit sternly, of eating too much. I thought at the time, said Rabbit, only I didn't like to say anything, said Rabbit, that one of us was eating too much. And I knew it wasn't me, he said. Well, well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit and saw front half of Pooh, he said, Silly old bear, in such a loving voice that everybody felt quite hopeful again. I was beginning to think, said Bear, sniffling slightly, that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again. And I should hate that, he said. So should I, said Rabbit. Use his front door again, said Christopher Robin. Of course he'll use his front door again. Good, said Rabbit. If we can't pull you out, Pooh, we might push you back. Rabbit scratched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that when once Pooh was pushed back, he was back. And of course nobody was more glad to see Pooh than he was, but still there was some who lived in trees and some who lived underground, and you mean I'd never get out? Said Pooh. I mean, said Rabbit, that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it. Christopher Robin nodded. Then there was only one thing to be done, he said. We shall have to wait for you to get thin again. How long does getting thin take? Asked Pooh anxiously. About a week, I should think. But I can't stay here for a week. You can stay here all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out which is so difficult. We'll read to you, said Rabbit cheerfully. And I hope it won't snow, he added. And I say, old fellow, you're taking up a good deal of room in my house. Do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel horse? Because I mean they are doing nothing, and it wouldn't be very convenient just to hang the towels on them. A week? Said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm afraid no meals, said Christopher Robin, because of getting thin quicker. But we'll read to you. Bear began to sigh, and then found he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck. And a tear rolled down his eye and said, Then would you read a sustaining book such as would help comfort a wedged bear in great tightness? So for a week Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh, and Rabbit hung his washing at the south end. And between the bear felt himself getting slenderer and slenderer. And at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said, "Now!" So he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold. Christopher Robin and all Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit, and then they pulled together. For a long time, Pooh only said, "Ow," "oh," and "ooh," and then all of a sudden he said, just as a cork were coming out of a bottle, Christopher Robin and Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards, and on the top of them came Winnie-the-Pooh, free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, he went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly, said to himself, "Silly old bear."